So we are about to pull back the curtain on what might just be one of the toughest exams in the entire world. I'm talking about India's Civil Services Preliminary Exam. And trust me, this is way more than just a test. It's the ultimate filter, designed to find the absolute sharpest minds who are going to run the world's biggest democracy. So let's take a look at what the 2024 paper is really all about.
And this right here is the gatekeeper. I mean, look at it. For well over 1 million people every year, this simple paper booklet is everything. It represents years, literally years of relentless work, countless sacrifices, and this burning desire to become an IAS, an IFS, or an IPS officer. You can almost feel the weight of all those dreams just by looking at it, can't you?
So you have to wonder, right? Besides just memorizing a mountain of facts, what is this exam really trying to find in a future administrator or a diplomat? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to dig into the questions themselves, kind of like cracking the DNA of this test to figure out what skills it says you need to lead India today.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at geography from a global perspective. Then, we'll get into why the environment is so crucial. After that, we're decoding the economy. Then we'll dive into what I'm calling the everything else gauntlet. You'll see why. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see what this paper really tells us.
All right, first up, geography. And let me tell you, the exam makes one thing crystal clear right from the start. A future leader's worldview can't just stop at the country's borders. Nope, you've got to understand the lay of the land, both physically and politically, at home and all across the globe.
And this really is the big question the paper is asking you, isn't it? It's all about testing your awareness on both a tiny local scale and a massive global one. Think about it. You need to know the name of a small river in your own backyard, but you also need to grasp the geopolitical importance of a sea that's thousands of miles away.
And this slide is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Just look. On one side, you've got a question asking for the exact sequence of rivers flowing into the Ganga. I mean, that's super specific, super local, right? But then, boom. Just 2 questions later, you're whisked away to Europe and asked to name the countries that border the North Sea. It's this incredible mental gymnastics forcing you to zoom all the way in and then all the way out in a heartbeat.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. This question shows that the exam isn't just a memory test. It's not about just memorizing facts. See, it gives you a bunch of data, like temperature and rainfall patterns, and then it asks you to figure out what kind of climate that describes. This is next-level stuff. It's about actually understanding the forces that shape our planet, not just being able to point to a place on a map.
Okay, let's switch gears and move on, because this next topic is a big one, the environment. And look, in today's world with climate change and all the talk about resources running out, this isn't some side topic anymore. It's absolutely a core skill for any leader. And you can bet the people setting this exam know that.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about saving tigers or planting trees, as important as that is. The exam dives deep into the really tough, messy stuff. Take this question, for example. It's about something called PFAS, which you might know by their scarier name, forever chemicals. I mean, this is a super current, incredibly complex issue that has massive consequences for public health.
So what in the world are PFAS? Well, think about things like non-stick pans or even firefighting foam. These man-made chemicals are in a ton of products, but here's the kicker. They don't break down. Not in the environment, not in our bodies. They just stick around, which is why they're called forever chemicals. And if you're going to be an administrator, you absolutely have to understand the science and the danger behind stuff like this.
And the scope of these questions is just wild. One minute you're dealing with complex industrial chemicals, and the next you're talking about chewing gum. No, I'm not kidding. This question asks about how chewing gum pollutes the environment. Why? Because a lot of gum actually has plastic in it. It just goes to show you, for the people making this exam, being environmentally aware means thinking about, well, everything.
All right, time for another big shift. Let's talk about the economy. And it's pretty simple, right? If you're going to be in charge of helping run a country with over 1 billion people, you better understand how the money works. And I mean all of it, from a small farm in a village all the way up to the most complicated financial stuff you can imagine.
And wow, this paper does not mess around. It throws this term at you, collateralized borrowing and lending obligations. I mean, come on, that's not something you just drop into a casual chat, is it? This is a serious test to see how deep your financial knowledge really goes.
Okay, so let's try to make sense of that. Basically, a CBLO is a fancy tool for borrowing and lending money for short periods. It's super secure because it uses government bonds as a guarantee, like collateral.
If you understand this, it means you get how a really important part of the country's financial plumbing works behind the scenes.
And it's not just about the old school economy either. The exam is definitely looking ahead. Check out this question. It's about the digital rupee. We're talking about a central bank digital currency here, which is about as cutting edge as it gets. It's a clear signal. If you want to be a leader, you can't just be stuck in the past. You have to be ready for the technology that's going to shape our financial future.
But then, just when you think it's all about complex, high-finance topics, they bring you right back to basics. And I love this question. It's a simple matching game. Can you sort different activities into the right economic sector? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? It's like a reality check. Before you can tackle the fancy stuff, they want to make absolutely sure you've mastered the fundamentals of how an economy actually works. Okay, everyone take a deep breath. We've just covered geography, the environment, and the economy. 3 huge topics. But guess what? The paper is just getting warmed up. This next part is what I'm calling the lightning round. I just want to give you a quick taste of the mind-boggling range of topics on this thing. Ready? Let's do it.
First up, you've got to be a historian. This question wants to know about the Ryotwari system, which was a very specific land tax system during the British era. I mean, that is a deep, deep dive into modern Indian history.
Next, put on your lawyer hat because you need to be a constitutional expert. This one gets into the details of the right to privacy, a super important fundamental right that came out of a landmark Supreme Court case.
And to top it all off, you better be a science geek. This question is about radioisotope thermoelectric generators. You know, the power sources they use on space probes that go to the outer planets. So let's recap. History, law, and rocket science, all in one exam. It's just incredible, isn't it?
Okay, so after that whirlwind tour, let's step back for a second. What's the big picture here? What is the design of this exam actually telling us about the kind of person they're looking for? Let's pull all our thoughts together.
So, if there's one thing you take away from all this, it's this. The exam is clearly shifting away from just remembering facts. It's all about applying what you know, like figuring out a climate type from some numbers. It forces you to think across different subjects, right? You have to connect the dots between something like chewing gum and pollution, or see how global events affect local farmers. At the end of the day, it's a test of how you think, not just what you've memorized.
And this quote really just nails it, doesn't it? It's not a memory contest. It's a test of critical thinking. It's about your ability to see the bigger picture, to connect things that seem totally unrelated, like how a historical policy from centuries ago could still be impacting the economy today. It's about training minds to make those huge, informed decisions that a whole country is counting on.
And that really brings us to the most important point. You know, this exam is almost like a mirror. It reflects the biggest challenges India is facing right now. We're talking climate change, new technology completely changing our world, a super complex global economy, the list goes on. So really, it's not just a test. It's a job description for the leaders of the future. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. What does the focus of this exam tell us about the challenges and priorities for the India of tomorrow?